joining us on another session of the MCTNaija M365 User Group, the virtual meetup. We always meet on every Friday of the week, and the group is all about fostering the knowledge in M365 as with the core products of Office 365, Windows 10, and Enterprise Mobility plus Security Suite. So with me on this call today is another wonderful speaker by the name Adewale Raji. And while Adewale Raji will be taking us through the topic for today, which is spam management in Microsoft 365. Okay, so to all of you that have joined us in the past, thank you for joining us. And for, if this is your first time here, very well, you're very welcome. So to begin with, a little background about our speaker, and then I'll leave him to also to do justice to his profile afterwards. Raji is an enterprise administrator and Microsoft certified trainer. He's also a multi-talented and experienced all-round engineer, I would say. And then he's skilled in system administration, in information and cybersecurity. He also has very vast knowledge around data center virtualization. Raji has a strong passion for driving business growth, using IT solutions, and the personal drive also to deliver a service that exceeds all expectations. I'm super glad to have Raji on this call. I've worked with him. In the past. I mean, briefly, really, and then I'll say that his professionalism and skills is actually on point. So for me, I'm super glad that he's on this call. I'm sure that the topic is going to take us through. At the end of the day, we're all going to have value in that same topic. So a little bit of housekeeping before Raji starts his session. One of the things I want us to bear in mind is that this session will be recorded and will be made available for future viewing. Please, if you have any information, I mean, at the beginning of the session, while the session is being recorded, please be aware that information around your names and your name and some personal information may be taken from you, please. But then I crave your indulgence. This is only just for the reason for us to provide this recording in the future. And one of the things also would want you to do is to please mute your microphone when you're not talking, pen down your questions until the Q&A session. And also, if this is your first time here, please follow us on our Twitter and do at NGM365. Also, past recordings have been updated, have been uploaded to our YouTube channel. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you can like and then subscribe so that you can keep up to date on all of our events. One of the other things I would like to say here is that this recording also will be made available and will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. We also value your feedback and then would want you to tell us how we're doing. So the feedback form will be made available during this call. Please endeavor to help us fill it. So without wasting much of your time and then giving the stage over to Raji Adewale as it takes us through this very interesting topic, how we can protect our environment with the spam management solution available for us in Microsoft 365. So over to you, Raji.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Like Jumoke said, my name is Adewale, but I prefer being called Raji. I don't know why. So I don't think I can introduce myself more than she has done. Basically, I'm an IT individual that is subjected to doing so many things. So that's why that enterprise admin might not really be by choice, but I guess what's it called? I enjoy it. So one of those areas that I actually manage presently is O365, and like I know, and that I know that majority of us can also tell, one of those things that would give an email administrator sleepless nights, a lot of query of why did I get it, or probably why didn't I get it, it's actually spam. So if you've been in that situation where you need to manage email systems in an enterprise environment, I believe you can always relate with that. So briefly today, we'll be looking at managing. Yeah, let me
Ladi, do
bring
you
up my
want to
screen
present?
briefly.
Sorry. Yeah, please.
Yeah,
You
sure.
present.
It's coming up.
All
Yeah.
right.
So we'll be briefly looking at how spam is being managed within the Microsoft 365 environment. A large number of organizations are actually moving to the cloud at present. A lot of organizations are new with Microsoft technology on O365 or proud Microsoft 365 as the case may be, while a lot more organizations are actually migrating from existing Microsoft technologies, basically Exchange. So one of those key parts of either managing Exchange or probably managing Microsoft 365 is controlling the inflow and outflow of emails, basically, and not just emails alone. You want to be sure that they are valid emails. And a large number of times, it's always a challenge if that is not done properly. It's either team members are losing mails, or probably they are being inundated with a lot of unwanted mails. And you can imagine how much headache that might be causing you, the administrator. So today we look at majorly what are the categories of unwanted mails. We may know them, but it's actually necessary that we redefine them and get to know how they are applicable within the Microsoft 365 environment. We look at the spam filtering pipeline, how mail flows from the external environment through Exchange, or rather Microsoft 365, until it gets to the recipient. To look at how you can manage false positive and false negative, being valid emails that are held, or probably invalid emails that makes it to the user's mailbox. We look at how analyzing the message header can always help us in that regard. Then we look at some sample mails. We talk about overriding to allow for valid mail, or probably to prevent invalid mail. Then we look at how users can always manage this themselves. So to a large extent, for us that work within an environment where you have a large number of users, you'll be very glad if there are a bit of what you do that you can always delegate to users in form of self-service. So we look at some of those options within the Microsoft 365 environment, and we'll talk about some recommendations. So first, what are the categories of unwanted emails? If you see, I choose to use the word unwanted emails because spam, to a large extent, is a bogus word. So if you tell me spam, I'll begin to wonder what makes it spam. So apart from some kind of unwanted mails that are already defined, there are a lot that are undefined, which to every user might be different. For me, I may consider it spam. To you, you may not consider it spam. So first, we look at phishing emails. These are emails, majority of us, what's it called, are familiar with this. Mails that are just sent so that the sender can always steal information from you. One notable thing about phishing emails is that they come with some form of links or probably attachments, which redirects you to some sites and asks you to provide majority of time credentials or probably security informations on that particular page. So just any mail in that form. Then junk email, any unsolicited or probably unwanted email, if they are currently identified. That is why I said in some cases they might be discretionary. So for phishing, we know that I don't want that mail and it comes with some link that is asking me to go to a particular URL and provide some information. But for junk, it might be difficult for you to identify why an email should be junk or not. Then bulk email, majority of time marketing and advert mails. You may want them or you may not want them. Then spoof email, any email coming from someone who is pretending to be someone else. So you actually expecting, or probably you got an email from a colleague, or you got an assumed email from a colleague, and after verifying, you observe that mail didn't really come from that colleague of yours. The email address is fake, but there may be a display name suggesting that mail may come from that colleague of yours. Those are spoofing emails. Then user defined. These are areas that are left to the user to decide. So if an email is not phishing, if it is not bulk, if it is not spoof email, then it is junk email. And junk email, it's the general category that may refer to as spam. So, but when it is specific, then a spam can specifically be phishing, can be bulk, can be spoof. Then the user defined. Like I said, there are instances where you have an email and you present it to 10 users, and 5 users may say it is spam and 5 may say it is not spam. So the reason is that they have their reason for not wanting that email. So if you work in a very large environment where you have a lot of users getting emails, there will be cases where an email goes to a large number of the organization, and there'll be a request to say this is spam, please blacklist it, and you blacklist it centrally. And the next day, someone else calls you to say, I'm expecting so-so email and I didn't get it. It's the same mail from the same sender. But to user A, it is considered spam, and user B, they feel like, what's it called? It's an email they want or they desire. So also spam or probably unwanted mails can be left to discretion of the user to define or probably decide if it is spam or not. So how does Microsoft 365 treat every emails that comes in through the mail pipeline or the mail system? So first, an email is sent from an external user. There are different stages of filtering or probably checks or scan that is done by the Microsoft 365 email gateway system, which might be majorly EOP, Exchange Online Protection, or probably EOP plus ATP, which is now the Microsoft Defender for Office 365. So if you are subscribed to, say, maybe an E3 upward, your subscription may come with some form of ATP licenses that allows you a little bit more than what EOP can offer. But if it is just EOP, then you are limited to what the EOP pipeline offers. But the pipeline here covers both. So there is a part of your email system that is referred to as the edge or probably perimeter, where the initial filtering or probably scanning of email is done. And within this stage, you are allowed to do 1 or 2 settings or probably configurations to restrict what type of mails you want to come in or probably what type of mails you don't want. And one of the first one is IP connection filtering, which checks if the IP of the remote email system is within a filtered list or not. So within your email security policies, you have the IP connection filtering policy where you can define IP addresses. You can specify a particular IP address, either on the allowed list, explicit on the allowed list, or probably on the deny list. So what that means is that if an IP address is not on the deny list, so it is assumed to be allowed. So that means email will flow, but you could explicitly go to say, I want this IP address allowed, although it doesn't change anything. We'll still come back to if it does change or not. But you denying it is saying that I don't want email from this email system. So at that point, such mails are dropped. Then you also have the safe list. So the safe list is also a collection of IP addresses, but these are being updated and managed by the vendor, which is Microsoft. So you don't get to see what are the content of those lists. What's it called? It is enabled by default. You are just subscribed to it by default. So Microsoft also collects a large number of those IP addresses they've considered trusted, and they can add them to their safe list. So if an email is on the safe list, the email goes through. If an email is on the IP filter deny list, such email is dropped. Then also, apart from the safe list, Microsoft is also subscribed to a lot of IP reputation service, which are real-time block lists. So you have some service providers that always publish and maintain lists of IP addresses that are considered not LD. So if your IP address has been flagged as not LD and it is published on some of these services, and it tends to be one of the services Microsoft is subscribed to. So when you are sending an email from such IP addresses, those IP addresses are flagged and the emails are dropped. So at the end of the day, the users would always receive an NDR. That's just what's it called? Majority of the NDR are very what's it called? Clear enough to tell you that you should check the incoming email system, majorly the IP address. The IP address is not LD, it has been blacklisted. And so then additionally, also what Microsoft uses is also what you refer to as gray listing or probably white listing. So gray listing or white listing is a technique whereby the receiving email system rejects a particular email, not outrightly as the case may be. So because just if you understand the way the TCP connection works, when you initiate an initial connection, if it is dropped, you try again. So what Microsoft 365 is expecting is that if that email system is a valid email system and not just how do you call it, a spam broadcasting email system. If I reject an email connection, you definitely try again. So if you don't try again, then it considers that as a spam, so it drops that. So all this category of filtering is done at the initial stage, and for emails that don't pass these checks, the sender of such mails would always get an NDR saying that the email cannot be delivered. So for mails that pass through this first check, they are subjected to the next stage of scanning, which is malware. So Microsoft 365 comes with the anti-malware policy, which defines what should be checked or what you don't want. It's just like they're giving you some basic level of flexibility, and that comes in some kind of advanced settings. But by default, Microsoft uses 3 categories of antiviruses to scan an email and its contents if they contain any kind of malware in form of attachment, in form of an embedded HTML content, or probably what's it called, some kind of encoding or probably obfuscation of content within an email. So it does that using its own antivirus, which is Defender, and it also makes use of 2 third-party antivirus engines, which they don't define. It can be McAfee, it can be Avast, it can be Sophos, but Microsoft also uses 2 third-party anti-malware engine to scan this email within its system. And so where you have that flexibility to also define what should also be checked is the common attachment blocking, which are settings within your anti-malware policy where you can define what types of emails do you want to be checked. The ones that contains .exe, any email with .exe, .vbs, and those form of attachments. So you just want to be sure that emails that are sent to your user don't come with some form of executable that can be detonated when it gets to the user's system, or probably when they open such emails or probably attachment. So for emails that fails this check, the emails are deleted. So the emails don't get to the user at all. They are taken off the email system. Although you can still, you as the admin can still check them from the quarantine and see them. Then I haven't gone through the malware scan. Emails that goes through this will be subjected to your own policy. So within the filtering pipeline, Microsoft has given room for you to define what you want and what you don't want to come through to your mailboxes. And you do that through your mail flow rules, or probably transport rules as they are known within Exchange. So within Exchange, you can define what should be done to emails coming in. And there are also some elements of spamming settings that you can define, like you defining what should be the spam confidence level, like you defining that a particular mail should be sent directly to the quarantine, like you changing one or two information within the email, what's it called, header. So if you have any email, any of these rules that applies to either the sender or probably the recipient of that rule, of that email, the email is subjected to such rules. And if the email fails, whatever you have defined would apply. Either it goes to the junk, or probably either it goes to quarantine, or probably maybe it is deleted, or probably it is subjected to some form of authorization. So that means you as the admin wants to know when a particular email is going to a particular mailbox, so that you can either approve the delivery of that mail, or probably you deny the delivery of that email. So, but if any of these email also passes any of the rules defined within a transport, the rule policy, or if no rule is applicable, the email is now subjected to the real spam scanning feature of Microsoft 365, which is where the bulk of the job in email scanning is actually done. And due to the fact that this can always be an intensive task and process, which I believe would also be performance intensive within the Microsoft own system, what's it called? A lot of pre-checks are done before it gets to this stage, so that a large number of your mails can be dropped at the perimeter stage, or probably at the malware scan stage, or probably at the rule policy stage. So a number of things are done here. Content are scanned for a number of information that may define, or probably that may present that email as scanned. Now, Microsoft does not disclose what type of content scanning algorithm is being used, or probably what is being checked or what is not being checked as part of scanning the content of an email. So, but the content of that email is scanned. Then also, that email is also checked against your own sender and domain block, or probably allow list. So if you have got within your anti-spam policy, if you have populated some IP addresses, or probably rather some domain, you do IP address at the perimeter level, but you do domain and email addresses at the spam policy level, where you can block a particular email address or probably domain. It also checks. Now, what that does is that if an email is allowed on that particular list, then it keeps spam scanning. So the spam scanner just feels that, oh, this is allowed, so that means I don't need to scan it again, since you want email from that sender or probably from that domain. And if that sender or probably domain is on the block list, it is also not scanned. The email is just what's it called, blocked automatically. That means sent to the quarantine. Then also it checks email authentication. That is where things like your SPF, your DMAC, and your DKIM are also checked, basically to authenticate that the sender of that email is actually legit. Someone is not spoofing. So majority of these applies to emails that might be classified as either phishing or probably spoofed emails. Then it also does a bulk mail filtering. So here also, it's within the bulk filtering, what Microsoft does is also confirm, they maintain a list of email addresses or probably domain names, and they subject them to health check based on if users had actually complained about receiving a bulk email which they don't want from that sender. So the categorization is based on, okay, you have received a bulk email from this. Did you complain? No. Did some people complain? Yes or no? Or did a large number of people complain? So if a large number of people complain, and Microsoft just specify that that email is blocked and it's unwanted, it's bulk and it is unwanted, because some bulk email can actually be wanted. So it classifies such email as bulk, and also either gets delivered to your junk or probably to the quarantine. Then Microsoft also allows you to specify regions from which you may not be willing to receive emails. So if I have no dealings with guys from Russia, guys from what's it called, from India, or probably guys from any of these Arabian country, then I don't expect to see any mail written in some of those languages. So I shouldn't expect an email coming from what's it called, a Russian registered domain or probably IP address written in Russia, or written in Arabic, or written in Hindu, because those what's it called, those forms of mail sometimes can be a way of hiding malicious content by obfuscating or probably encoding those malicious content in what appears to be other languages, using some of these ASCII character encoding and stuff like that. So you may want to specify that from this region, I don't want to see an email. So when email comes from such and they meet such criteria, it comes from any of those regions in such languages, then such emails are actually held back. Then you may also what's it called? It will also subject the email to spoof intelligence. Spoof intelligence are actually an outcome of email authentication, where it checks for SPF, checks for DMARC. Does it pass the DMARC? Does it specify an SPF record? Does it pass it? And stuff like that. So Microsoft actually goes further also to use its own form of email authentication system called composite authentication, where it doesn't just rely on SPF, DMARC, and DKIM records or probably settings. It uses a combination of other information to specify or probably to check if that email is spoofed or not. That falls under the spoof intelligence. They also have the advanced spam filtering. The advanced spam filtering here, you're allowed to specify if you want emails that come with some form of HTML embedded content, Flash embedded content, and stuff like that. Although Microsoft is actually taking this out as a separate setting which you can configure and make it a default offering within the spam settings. So you might not really need to change anything. Maybe either you enable or perhaps disable any of those settings. It doesn't really matter because it will eventually become part of the normal spam scan system. So for any of the emails that fails this check, depending on what is the verdict or probably what is the action you have specified, because within your spam filtering settings also, you're also allowed to specify what action should be taken on certain mails if they don't meet or probably meet certain conditions, like sending them to the junk or probably sending them to what's it called, quarantine. So depending on such, the outcome of this can subject the email to the junk or quarantine if the email does not pass. And if it does pass the check, then the next, if you are subscribed to Defender for O365, which was previously known as ATP, then the email is subjected to further checks like safe attachment. A further check is done, apart from the initial malware check that is done on every email. A further check is done on all attachments that is within that email. So Microsoft makes use of a sandbox system where the content of that email is actually opened and analyzed, and in some cases detonated. And if such attachment is found to be malicious, it is deleted or probably replaced by a text, or probably the mail itself is not delivered, depending on the setting that you have specified. And the same thing also goes to safe link. For safe link, all the link within such emails will be embedded with an email that takes you to some kind of captive portal where you are told that we have checked that this link actually redirects to a malicious site and you wouldn't be allowed to go to such site. Then also you also have anti-phishing intelligence or probably setting, which checks for stuff like domain impersonation or probably user impersonation, which is also a form of spoofing technique used by attacker, where for instance, let's say My email address is adewale.raji@abc.com, which is my corporate email. Someone could go and register adewale.raji@gmail.com and use my display name as well. Gmail, to a large extent, is a legit email system. It's LD. You have no reason to blacklist or probably not receive any email coming from Gmail. So naturally, the email should deliver, and it would deliver if you don't have anything to guide against such. But basically, what the advanced and phishing system within the ATP does is to check for some protected users. So you can define some users as protected. So if my mailbox is defined as protected, what it does is that, is there any similarity in the email, or is there any similarity in display name, such that the extended domain or probably the source is not actually from my corporate email. So for such email, they are flagged as phish and spoofed email, and they are held back until you release as you deem fit. So it does user impersonation and domain impersonation check. So if the email also, if it fails, the email is either sent to junk or probably quarantine. And if it passes, it is now delivered to the mailbox. But even after delivery to the mailbox, Microsoft still has an, what's it called? Like, how do you call it? Like an icing on it, which is the 0-hour automatic purge. What the 0-hour automatic purge does is that Microsoft, in its own, what's it called? Actually believes that in some cases there might be some form of zero-day attacks, or probably 0 day is even too long this time around, 0 hour, because it might not take up to a day before some viruses might be detected. So let's leave it as it is called, a 0-hour form of attack, which could be a malware, could be an attachment, it could be a link. So due to the fact that the spam content filtering engine, the anti-malware filtering engine are being updated in real time. If there's an email that has been delivered before there's a anti-malware, anti-spyware, probably scanning engine was updated to suggest that, oh, such email is actually malicious, then from within the mailbox, for emails that have been read or probably unread, such email can still be deleted. So you could have cases where the user has actually received an email before, and in the next few hours, the email is gone. Not like, what's it called? Someone deleted it, or probably user deleted it, but it's just gone. And you eventually see that quarantine is flagging it. So that's the job of the 0-hour automatic purge, just to ensure that, what's it called? Within the whole life cycle of that email, if eventually something comes up that suggests that that email is invalid, it can still be flagged. So after this, if the email, so it is done for malware, it is done for phish email, perhaps spam email. So if any of these test positive to the 0-hour automatic purge, the emails are actually purged, and else they remain in the user mailbox. So this basically describes the process through which an email goes within Microsoft 365 to flag it as an unwanted email. So having gone through this process, and as the process goes through, a lot of informations are added within the email header that provides a lot more information as to the reason why particular decision was made, or probably as to the characteristics of that particular email. You could have header tags like spam filtering verdict that gives an idea of what action was taken on a particular email and why it was taken. You could have scores generated to how spam that particular email is in form of spam's confidence level. It's actually a score within 1 to 9 that suggests how spam or probably how much of a spam does an email look like. The same thing applies to bulk email. How much of a bulk email or probably unwanted mail does that particular email look like? A score is also assigned. Then also, eventually, how was that email treated? What type of protection policy was applied to it? What type of email was it classified as? Was it classified as a phishing email? Was it classified just as spam? Was it classified as a bulk? Or there was no classification, which means it's a clean email that it was delivered. So all these informations are added to the email header of such mail. So looking at of importance is the spam confidence level, and the score ranges from -1 to 9. -1 means that the message keeps spam filtering. So like we said within the filtering pipeline, that it is possible that an email will skip the spam filter. Number one, for instance, if you have added the email sender or probably the email domain to the allowed list on the spam policy, or the IP address on the allowed list on the perimeter, which is for IP connection, what's it called, filtering. So such emails will be assigned a spam confidence level of -1. So which means this guy is a VIP, don't touch it. So it will be sent to the user's mailbox directly. Then also for a mail that has gone through the spam filtering pipeline and it comes out very healthy, then the email is classified as assigned a 0 or probably a 1 SCL, and it is delivered to the user's mailbox. Spam that are kind of spam, they are just spam. So such emails are classified 5, 6, and they are delivered to the junk. And if these ones are, no, we are too sure that this is just too much of a spam, then it's assigned 9, and they're referred to as a high confidence spam. So such emails are also delivered to the junk by default. But if for a particular reason you have made 1 or 2 changes to your spam filtering, to your anti-spam policy, then you might actually change what would be the default action. You could choose to send such emails to the quarantine. The same thing applies to bulk confidence level. It can be 0 or probably 9. 0 means the message is not bulk. 1, 2, 3 means the message is from a bulk sender, but it has received few complaints. You know, earlier I said the bulk filtering engine used is a collection of IP addresses or probably bulk sender system, where such IP addresses or probably email senders are monitored real time for responses received from users when emails are received from such senders. So if the email sender is a bulk sender but has received few complaints, the email will be assigned 1, 2, or 3. If there's received mixed number of complaints, that means some people are actually okay with the email. Some have complained that, oh, this is an unwanted email. It can be assigned 4, 5, 6, 7. And if it has generated a high number of complaints, people say, no, we don't want emails from this provider, then it's going to be assigned 8 or 9. For any email flagged as bulk, there's just one default action, which is to be sent to the email folder. But I've actually observed that if you use Microsoft Office 365, you'd have your main folder and you have the other. So your Outlook actually kinds of divides your inbox into 2 tabs. You have the actual inbox, the main, or probably the other. So a number of them are actually moved to the other, especially those within the 1 category. So saying that, okay, this is an email you might not really be interested in urgently. So apart from the spam confidence level and the bulk confidence level, also protection categories are also assigned. What the protection categories does is it defines what protection policy of all the policies available on Microsoft 365, which of the policies is applied to that particular email, and what classification, or probably how was that email classified? Was it classified as bulk? Was it classified as a phishing email and stuff like that? So a number of the classification tags used include bulk if it is bulk, DIMP if it is a domain impersonation, GIMP if it is a mailbox intelligence based impersonation. If it is iPhishing, you get the iPhish. If it is iSpam, you have the HSPM. So all these tags, you find them within the header, and they actually gives you a lot more information about how a particular email was treated. You have the malware, phishing, spam, spoof, user impersonation, anti-malware, and safe attachment. But if we recollect when we defined what can be termed as an unwanted email, if we kind of check more closely, it is very possible that an email belongs to more than 1 category. Number 1, within Microsoft 365, all those emails are termed as spam. So they are all spam. But it goes further to now differentiate to say what type of spam. Is it phishing? Is it spoofing? Is it malware? User impersonation, anti-malware? And if you also look, we have a lot of policies for majority of those categories. You have the anti-malware, you have the anti-spam policy, you have the anti-phishing policy, you have the spoofing policy and stuff like that. So an email might might fall to more than one category, but only one policy would eventually be applied. And each of your policies have got precedence and hierarchy. So the one at the top, would always be the one that will be applied. So now, this is all what Microsoft 365 does by default, especially with all the default policies that comes with it. But nevertheless, with all this, it's still very possible that you still get spam. So that is where the edit comes for administrators. You might begin to count at a particular time. What's it called? I was being asked to produce a report of how much spam we receive every week. That was pre Microsoft 365 Exchange. We're using a third-party email gateway. Although you could use on Exchange, you could use Microsoft Edge as your default gateway. You could also use a third-party, which in some cases are referred to as spam host, what's called smart host. Then also in the very early stage of migration to Microsoft 365 also, the spam were just coming in, and every day you'll be asked that, why am I getting this? Why am I getting this? What's going on? And stuff like that. And at a particular point in time, I was told to spend close to 2-3 hours every day on specific user mailboxes to look for a way to prevent certain mails from coming in, or making sure that some emails actually get delivered, they are not held back. But there might be a lot of reasons why some of these still happen. For instance, if you have got certain transport rules that you have set or probably you have defined, either you did or probably someone else did, and some of those transport rules are actually overriding your spam policy. So which means they are not subjecting those emails to the spam pipeline or content filtering pipeline, then you might get it. And you should know that a number of overrides would always assign the CSL of -1. -1 means that, oh, this email is a VVIP, don't touch it, don't check it. Just like a diplomatic baggage to say this one is from the president, you don't check it. Then the same thing applies to IP filters. Your transport rule will do that. If you specify within your content filtering here is referring to anti-spam policy. Within your anti-spam policy, you've also added some domain or perhaps some email addresses. They would be they would bypass the spam filtering, so users would eventually get the mail. The same thing for IP filters. Then also, a large number of times the question is always, but I have SPF set up, I have DMAX set up. Why is this email still coming in and stuff like that? But within an email header, there are two parts where the sender of the email is defined. You have the envelope and also you have the email header. So the envelope is actually the information obtained from the actual email system. So let's say your email server or perhaps the email gateway of the sender. The information of that is specified within the email envelope in a tag referred to as the mail from. While the email address of the user, the actual user or perhaps the mailbox sending the email, is also specified within the email header, which is from. So a large number of time, both of them might not be the same, but it's in common sense they should be the same. So the implication of that now is that if I have an IP address or probably the address of an email server to say, oh, this email server is actually sending spam. This email server is actually sending spam. Then I just check the email. Who is the sender? Oh, the sender is adewale.abc. Then I go to say abc.com blacklist. abc.com, which you see from the email itself after you have received it from Outlook, is actually from the from header, which defines the user sending it. That is not actually, it might not really be the server sending that particular email. So that means they've actually blacklisted the wrong, sender, and spam from that actual email system will still continue to come in. I've had this, experience a number of times where you'd have a particular, if I may recollect, a particular email coming from, a Zenith bank, a particular bank, but it was becoming disturbing within the environment. Then I just checked. The first time user complained, I blacklisted. Second time, I did the same. They complained from another user. So the same user that complained before now sent another email saying that she could recollect she asking us to blacklist this, and we responded that we did, but she just got it. So that got me concerned. So I had to do further analysis to check that what was actually being blacklisted is different from what was actually sending that particular email. So you might still be getting spam. Then also DMARC as well. The way DMARC and SPF works is that SPF defines who should be an accepted sender for an email system. So that means I assign server ABCD the right to send the email for my domain or part for my environment. DKIM says that I sign this particular email to preserve the integrity of that particular email, so that you can always verify if that particular email has been intercepted and toyed with in transit. Why DMARC specified that if an email does not pass SPF check, does not pass DKIM check, do this. But a large number of times, DMARC comes with an extra information where you are meant to specify the DMARC percentage, which is PC, always in form of PCT, when you are creating a DMARC record. That PCT specifies, what it means is that how much of your email that fails DMARC check should I act on based on what you have specified. So within DMARC, you would specify what should happen to any email that fails both SPF and DKIM check. The options are always none, reject, or quarantine. So if I specify reject, or if I specify quarantine, that's 1. But within the DMARC percentage, the option is always 1 to 100. If I specify 50, what it means is that only reject 50% of the email that have failed DMARC. So that means within a day, if I've got 10 emails that have failed DMARC, instead of being rejected, 5 will be delivered and 5 will be rejected. So naturally, that information should always be 100%. And funny enough, except if Microsoft had actually changed it, if you go to do a public DNS query for Microsoft's own DMARC record, you'd see that they didn't specify the DMARC percent. And that is one of the reasons why a large number of times spoofed emails coming from Microsoft will always get through. There was a time, when the work from home and these COVID-19 issues started, and people were actually going in for online meetings, and people were subscribing to Microsoft Teams heavily. There was a large number of attacks then, phishing emails coming from noreply.microsoftteams.com, which is the valid Microsoft email address with which they send notifications when you miss chat within Microsoft. So the reason why that was successful, that will also cause within my environment, actually caused a lot of issue then. And basically, then what I just did straight ahead was even just to blacklist that email, because I don't know the reason why you want to get notification for chats that you miss. When you log into Teams, you see it. So what I did was just to blacklist it. And the reason why that was coming in, despite the fact that it is coming from the email address suggests it's coming from Microsoft, which means they are spoofing Microsoft email address, is because Microsoft has not properly specified those settings within their DMARC. Then also, you might be getting spam because the sender and the content is actually clean. And when I mean clean, is that I could launch an email attack from Gmail, and until when what's it called? And I wonder if anybody would blacklist email coming from Gmail. I don't know, but you could launch a valid attack from Gmail, from a Yahoo mail. So it now depends on what type of attack, what type of spam are you sending? The one with some malicious content, which will basically be subjected to the content check, might fail. Or probably if you are crafting your own content that has not been used before, so which means the signature for your content has not been defined on any anti-malware or probably antivirus before, then it will definitely go through. Then bulk email, a large number of times, some bulk email will go through. And like I said, it's discretionary because users may say they want it and some users may say they don't want it. So it's now left for you to decide what will you do with such. Then also, in some cases, some valid emails may be held. Even at the default settings of Microsoft 365, you would have false positive and you have false negatives. So in such cases, you just want to check your junk folder, check quarantine. Then the next thing is you'd what's it called? The next thing is you'd analyze the header. And first you check quarantine, because quarantine itself gives you a whole lot of information. Like if you can see within here, a few seconds. So within here you can see this information. This is actually a lot of very good information for you to check the reason why some emails are being held. Number one, this defines which of your policy is actually holding that email. And also this gives you the reason. And this reason is what is specified in the header of that email during the spam, what's it called, verification or probably validation check. So the next thing is you may want to download such emails from here, especially if you don't want to, so naturally you don't want to release them. You either download or probably directly check the header from within quarantine itself. So those are some of the things you can do with what's it called, valid emails that are held. Then the next thing, we want to create an override. But creating an override, which is an exception, which basically means you tweaking your policies or probably creating additional policies to give room for either false positive or probably false negative. There are also a lot of things that need to be put into considerations so that you don't actually get the effect that is not desired. We'll look at some of that very much later. Now, starting with analyzing the header, like we said, a lot of information that entered into the header of every email that passes through the email filtering system. And some of those emails are placed in 3 different categories. Some of those informations are placed in 3 different categories within the header. You have the extra front and spam report that contains information about the message and how it was processed. You also have the Microsoft anti-spam field, which contains additional information about if the email is bulk or perhaps it's an phishing email. Then also the last email, which contains authentication information, if that particular email passed ticking, SPF or DMARC, or probably the Microsoft own composite authentication check. So some of this information, there are actually a lot of them, but due to the fact that we would look at some sample emails and would cross-check them, it's actually necessary that we look at some of this. So some of those informations added within the header includes the IP address of the sending system, and also it will check if the message was allowed through the spam filter because the IP address was on the allowed list. So it's going to specify if that IP address is on the allowed list, if that IP address, has any reputation issues. So because that will be checked also. It will also check the country from which that email is being sent and also the language. This is helpful in cases where you have actually specified or probably where you have actually configured the international spam setting within your spam filtering. Then also, it would inspect the content and tag the email with either of the two. Spam, if that email was found to be spam after checking the content, or not spam, if that email is actually clean. Then also, it will also check if that if the sender is on any filter, either an allow or probably a block list. Then it will tag it with any of these two. It will give it an SKA. That means if that particular email, if that particular sender or probably domain is on any allowed list. And if it assigns this SKA, automatically it keeps the content filtering. So it doesn't subject that email to any kind of spam check again. Then it will be SKB if that email is spam because it is on the block list. So if any email is on the block list, it is SKB. And that also is not subjected to any filter again. Immediately the email is just sent to the quarantine. Then also, if the user has configured any safe sender within their own mailbox also, it will also check that, and it will assign SFE, what's it called, if that email is actually on the recipient safe sender. And if the email is on the recipient safe sender on Outlook, then filtering is also skipped. Then also, BLK, the email will be blocked if that sender is on the blocked sender list. Then the same thing, skipping spam filtering for several reasons. It could be because it will be marked as SKN if the message is not spam, but because we have some kind of filtering rule or private transport rule, that email is what's it called, allowed. Then also you have the SKI if that email skipped any kind of filtering because it is from someone within your organization. So in some cases, you could have cases where emails within organizations is also being subjected to spam check, especially what's it called within intra organization spam check. So such email may actually skip filtering because it is an internal email. Then also, if the email is held on the quarantine and you eventually release it, it will tag it with SKQ. If the email was forced to be a spam, either by a transport rule, so you have created a transport rule that receives mail from a particular sender or private domain and assigns it a spam confidence value of, say, 9, then that means you are forcing that email to be spam. You don't really want to know whatever will be the verdict from the email context filtering system. You just want to make it spam. So it will assign it an SK, what's it called, SKS. Then also, for an email that has no any other action performed on it, it just comes clean as spam, then it will be tagged with SPM. And if it comes through as bulk also, it will be tagged with BLK. So that will mean if the email has what's it called, a spam confidence of let's say 3 and above, or probably bulk what's it called, confidence of I guess 3 and above. So these are some of the informations that you would check within your header when you are trying to analyze the reason for false positive or probably false negatives, because it gives you basic information of how that particular email was treated and why certain actions were, what's it called, were carried on it. So any question so far?
Okay, so I've not seen any question.
Okay.
I've not seen any question
so,
in the window, but I guess we're all just engrossed with what we are learning.
Okay, so let's just a few seconds. So you have a number of sample. Okay, I would have to share my screen. Few seconds. Okay. Let me use yep. Let me scroll. So a number of us would be familiar with message header analyzer. It's a very handy tool when it comes to troubleshooting email issues, either email delivery issues or probably spam email issues. So basically, you are looking at all those informations injected into the email header that will give you an overview of why a particular situation is what it is, basically. So for emails, when maybe a user complains about false positive or probably false negative, some of those things you want to first of all check. If a user had complained of not receiving certain emails, you want to first of all check their junk, and having checked their junk, you also want to check your quarantine. And the same thing also, if a user had complained that a particular email was delivered, basically for that you just want to, is that you ask the user to share a sample of that particular email, or basically you just add to your transport message tracing system where you can always pick up the header. But the target or bottom line is that you want to lay hands on the header of that particular email, and you add to the message analyzer. You have a lot of sites that offers this as a free service, and likewise that of Microsoft. So I have a number of emails here, and we would look at what that email is saying. So the first thing, I would copy the first one here, and I'll dump the header here. So I'll say analyze. I believe we can all see my browser.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the first part of the header, this received header section, is when you are troubleshooting mail flow issues. So you don't have business. If you are here for spam, you don't have business with that. So what you have business with is these two sections primarily. You have the forefront as a spam header, and you have the Microsoft and spam header. So first you can see the country or region, the language, and you can see, first instance, you can see this guy has a spam confidence level of 9. So seeing this, you'd know that this email has been flagged as spam. But the question will now be why? Why is it spam? And if you look at the spam filtering verdict that we just saw on the slide earlier, this is tagged as a SPM, which means it is flagged as spam. Then the next thing you want to check, if we remember and we go back to the slide where we talked about the protection category, where you'd see something like hfish, hspam, AMP, malware, and stuff like that, which are the classification for that particular email, and possibly also which of those spam protection policies we applied. So for this guy is actually a spam. It has a spam confidence of 9, and it is flagged as AMP. And if we go back to the slide, AMP here suggests that that email is anti-malware. So now let me, so that we can see both at the same time, let me just share the whole of my desktop, because we need to go back and reference one or two things. So just a few seconds. So here we can see that AMP is anti-malware, which is ZAP. So which means this email was initially delivered and now taken off because ZAP acted on it. So these are those information specified within that category that tells you that, okay, this email is spam, but why? Or probably what type of spam? What happened? What went wrong? So that's where you see there. Let me go back to the browser. So yeah, I have AMP, and the reason why is that you have the anti-malware policy for ZAP acted on it. And now this is the connecting IP address. And this guy is not bulk because the bulk confidence level is 0. And this is the additional information.
Raji,
yeah.
Sorry,
yes, I can hear you.
Stop you. We're just seeing your PowerPoint, so we're not seeing.
Yeah, sorry. Let me come back here. Desktop here. So can we see this now?
Very well, yeah.
Okay. So like I said earlier, we can see the region, the language, the spam confidence level, what's it called? We can see the spam filtering verdict, and we also the IP filter verdict. This basically means that it is not listed on your IP connection filtering, so which means it is not on an allowed list or probably on a deny list. So it's actually flagged as spam, and it's flagged as spam because ZAP acted on it. It is classified as an anti-malware, policy. However, other information also suggests that this guy is not bulk. There are no complaints from that. But also, more information is this, where you have, the authentication result. This field SPF, and it passed DKIM, and composite authentication field, and reason is this. Now, this is also a very valid, a very useful information, but due to the volume of those informations there and what they relate to, I can't add it to the slide, but let's do something. Either spam header. Okay. So Microsoft had actually published some of these informations that can give you an overview. So these are those spam, filtering verdict. And so here now, like I said, Microsoft does not just depend on SPF and DKIM or DMARC to validate the source. They also, due to the fact that there are cases where the sender of the email on the envelope is actually different from the sender of the email within the header of the email. So that means the domain. So for instance, if I'm sending a marketing email, I'm subscribed to let's say SendGrid. We all know SendGrid used in sending this marketing. SendGrid would also allow you to, will tell you to add their own record on your SPF so that they appear as a permitted sender for you. So you add their their address on your SPF. Their address is, let's say, sendgrid.net. Your own domain is, let's say, wandoplc.com. So when you check, when SPF is being checked, SPF is being checked against wandoplc.com. So wandoplc.com checks, okay, now they check your record, it says that SendGrid is actually allowed. Then but both of them does not really match. So in such cases, it's very easy for a user to use SendGrid to spoof you, because SendGrid is already an accepted sender, and they could use that to spoof you on a different email system that is not actually Wando. So Microsoft does extra check, and that extra check is what you refer to as a composite authentication. And the composite authentication used by Microsoft, they combine in multiple types of authentication, DKIM and DMARC. And either the fact that a sender does not have SPF, DKIM, or DMARC, Microsoft does not necessarily flag that particular email as spoof. So the email must pass its own check, and its own check is what is done within this part here, this composite field. So if a sender fails Microsoft composite check, Microsoft will give you a reason why it is failing it. Although a large number of times, if a decision is made on this composite check, then the reason for flagging that email as spam majority of time would always be spoofing. So some of those reasons would be the message failed explicit authentication. So that means it failed both SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Then 01 here, the message failed implicit authentication, means that the sending domain did not have email authentication record published, or if they did, it has a very weak policy. So you have them all to this point. So a large number of times you want to check and also cross-check to make you understand the reason why that action was taken. Let's check another email. So I don't know, a large number of us will be familiar with this email. FIRS sending your users tax clearance when it's not true. Some guys playing a smart one somewhere. So if I come here and clear this. So for this guy, okay, was this the first one we checked earlier? No, I don't think so. So for this SPF field also, DKIM, the message was not signed, composite field and reason is 00. For this also, spam confidence is 9, it's a spam. And so you can see this email. So now this what's it called? Very interesting. You can see this email is from Russia, and the email address from Russia, same as the IP address. and although the content was not written in Russia. But let's assume the content was written in Russia and you had enabled international spam. If this guy was not flagged for the fact that it is just an high confidence spam. So this, if you can see this highlighted, SVF, this is SPMH, meaning it is an high confidence spam. It's basically will be flagged for that alone. And one of the factors that actually contributed to the fact that it is an high confidence spam, I believe, is definitely because of the fact that international spam, although it is enabled by default, then you can now begin to add extra information. This guy is from Russia, and you might not be receiving, you might not be willing to receive email from Russia. The sender is from Russia, but spoofing an entity in Nigeria. So let's look at these as well. So this guy is also spam, but this guy was classified as iFish, spam policy category. This is what's it called, high confidence fish, and you can also see that what's it called here as well. You can see that what's it called here. It is not bulk. However, if you see,
you can zoom out your. Is it a way you can zoom out so that we can appreciate this more? Maybe zoom out your
Okay. Sorry, my screen is 4K and coming very small. Okay.
Yes, I think we can see some here.
Okay, sorry. Okay, how about now?
Very well, okay. Very well.
So, like I was saying, this is an high confidence phishing, what's it called? Email. It is flagged here. It is also spam. This guy is not listed on any filter. It has a spam confidence, what's it called, of 9. But why is this email flagged as phish? If we come back to that email itself, I still have it opened. Come back here. This is the email. It contains some kind of malicious link here. And here you can even see Outlook. It's saying that there are problems with this image, blah, blah, blah. So it feels like that image has got some embedded link, which probably it has checked and what's it called? It's not confident with where the source of that email is. So it is flagging it as a phishing email. This also, if we quickly do a check of this, this is an high confidence spam email. So now we have SKB. And what does SKB say? SKB, it says the message was marked as spam because it matched a sender in the block senders list or block domain list in an anti-spam policy. So this guy was flagged as spam because the sender has been blacklisted. So that's the reason for why that guy was held. And so you can see this guy was held, but for a large number of others. So basically what that means is that this guy was not delivered. This email was not delivered. But the previous ones we had checked had no, what's it called, SFV record. So which means they were delivered. But some of those additional informations were actually included, and it gives you an idea. Now, there are cases where a particular email could be tagged as phishing, as spoofing, or probably spam, and none of these records or what's it called information will be added because they don't meet any of those criteria, and the email will not be held or will not be placed in the junk email. And that is majority of time if you have defined a custom policy and the protection or probably action for those policies are not defined. So it didn't define if I set up a spoof policy, but I didn't define that if an email is spoof, it should go to junk or it should go to quarantine. then yeah, the email will be spoofed, but basically it will be delivered into the mailbox. And just this last one. This one also. Okay, let's come. Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see, and we'll see here. So this is, you can see the spam confidence level for this is 5, not 9, like we had seen in the previous email. This guy is not listed on our IP filter, and this guy, so this actually is a false positive. So that means it was falsely classified as spam, and we know the reason why it is falsely classified as spam. And the reason is that UIMP, that email was classified as an impersonation. Now, the reason why it was, I will just tell us the reason why it was classified as impersonation, what's it called, why trying to limit the, what's it called, exposing the content of that particular email, is that within the environment where this email was taken as a sample, you have a user named a.abc.com. That same user has an email on Yahoo named a.yahoo.com. So, if I come here, so I have a.abc.com and I have a.yahoo.com. And this ABC is the corporate email. Yahoo is the personal valid email of that particular user. So this user was enabled for what's it called, spoof intelligence, which is part of your ATP. If you have ATP, you can define some mailboxes as high-profile mailboxes that should be monitored for what's it called, spoofing. So the user himself used his Yahoo email address to send an email to a user k.abc.com, and EOP flagged it. This is why EOP flagged it, is that he's seeing it like, okay, now the name AA is similar. Within the display name of the email address, the names are also similar. So it assumes that someone is trying to spoof a.abc.com from a Yahoo account. Although that is what's it called, also a false positive. But however, if such what's it called, protection policy is not in place, that means it is very easy. You can imagine someone creating spoofing the email address of let's say the director or probably a manager within the organization on Gmail, and using that to send an email to the treasurer, who is not always very observant, and from the display name is just saying Mr. Omotunde Ogunshakin, please, what's it called, quickly do a transfer of so amount to this account number ASAP, I'm waiting. And the, what's it called, madam, probably working under pressure, oh, Oga to say, let me do this fast. And you can imagine, what's it called, that would have been a very successful attack. So these are some of the informations you check within email header when you are trying to figure out why an email was delivered, or probably why the email was not delivered, when it has to do with what's it called, with spam. So going back to the slide.
So Raji, we have like few minutes left, like 5 minutes for us to round up. Let me begin.
Sorry. Yeah, so let me just quickly. So now, having determined the validated reason why an email is what it is, what can you do? What's it called? The next thing is to think of how you can create exceptions and build overrides. You may want to create exceptions if you don't agree with the default settings within Microsoft's own default policies. If you want to ensure that users receive all emails from trusted senders, and also if you want to block emails from unwanted email senders. So what you can do is create safe sender list, or probably create block senders list. So safe senders list is when there's a need for you to, what's it called, allow an email that has been flagged what can you do? Although we've seen some of those things that we can do, but what's the most recommended approach so that we don't do it and still expose our system? So you can, number one, the most recommended approach to creating override, and override means that allowing, or probably, let me use the word, whitelisting a sender or probably an email because it has been flagged by our policy, which we don't want to change. The first most approved way is to use mail flow rules because it's very flexible. You can combine a lot of conditions within a mail flow rule, and you can always ensure that only the right message is allowed. If you don't use that, you can use safe senders, Outlook safe sender. Outlook safe sender allows users on their own to add certain email senders or probably domain to their safe sender. Those information is stored on the user's own mailbox and it applies to user alone. So which is if a user A adds tunde@gmail.com to their safe sender, if Tunde had previously been flagged as a spammer, mails from Tunde will be delivered to user A, but will not be delivered to user B within the same environment because that information is not available to the user B. So exceptions for specific user, but we should note that when you exempt or probably create exception, depending on how you create it, you are actually exposing some bit of your email system the more, because all exception would override the content filtering system. So which means that when such an email is on the allowed list, EOP would not bother to filter or probably check the mail again. It will just deliver it, which can be risky. The same thing applies to IP, what's it called, listing. But if you are doing this, avoid entering an IP address range. Just be specific. Use a specific IP address. Using a range means that you are allowing more other email systems using such email addresses, using such IP addresses, which you don't really know. Then also avoid using that of a shared service provider. Let's take, for instance, if I place the IP address of SendGrid on my email allowed list, there are 1,000,001 customers using SendGrid to send out broadcast email, including malicious senders. So basically what it means is that yours truly, I just want any email coming from SendGrid to go through my email system without being checked for any kind of malicious content. So the best what's it called way would be just look for the option of mail flow rules and use specifically domain names. So we should note that IP allowed list will set the spam confidence level to -1, which means that it will not be checked by the spam filtering system. Then the last option, or the last preferred option, is using the allowed sender list or probably allowed domain list, which is available in your spam policy. Also, you should note that if you do this, it means that the domain can easily be spoofed. And Microsoft had advised that don't add your own domain on your spam, what's it called, allowed list. Don't add your own domain, because if you do, what it means is that you're allowing someone outside to spoof your domain and not subject that email to spam check. That means that email will bypass all form of your email authentication settings, SPF, DMARC, and stuff like that. Then also, this user and domain allowed list only takes a maximum of 1,000 entries. If you want to block, then the most preferred way, if it is a bulk email, just use the unsubscribe option. Even if users are reporting it, just advise them to, please, madam, is there an unsubscribe link within an email? If they say yes, it is, then there is, then please just use it. Users can always do it themselves. Or better still, ask the user to block it from their email. So that means that they could just pick up the email address and go to their safe sender list and add it there. So it's going to be specifically for them. So except if that particular bulk mail or probably spam mail is applicable to everybody within the organization, then you can always use the domain block list or probably sender block list on spam. That applies to everybody, but the Outlook safe sender applies to specific users. So you'd always use the domain or the sender list when multiple users are affected. Then lastly, also, you may want to use mail flow rules to block. For this, you can specifically look for keywords, addresses, or probably domain filter. Like within my environment, I've got specifically an email flow rule specifically defined, because despite all that you do, there is still a lot of emails that get delivered because they are clean, but the contents are not what are desirable. Like a number of emails coming and specifying Bitcoin. You can imagine emails going to your directors or probably your managers and asking them that they caught them, what's it called, jacking off on camera, or probably that they are proposing that they use Viagra to them. It can be very offensive, and those people don't take it, especially for the majority of our female, what's it called, senior executives. When they see that, they go mad and they just come down at you. So there's no way you could do that, even if you blacklist the IP address. Those guys are not using one IP address. So just use a keyword filter. Over time, you would have collected, for instance, within my environment, if I begin to count, I've collected over 500, what's it called, keyword lists over time, which I feel like, what's it called, are not appropriate. So even if I have a new email system today from scratch, I'll definitely begin to add those keywords. Then you can use that, you can use Mailflow to also set the spam confidence level. Then lastly, to block, you could also use the IP address, what's it called, block list. Like we said earlier, avoid using range, avoid using shared IP address. Then also, if you want to offload some of those responsibility to your users, there are options. You can always install the report message plugin on Outlook for them. What the report message plugin does is that they're able to report a particular email. And when they do the reports, there are two options. Microsoft allows you to specify a mailbox within your environment where it goes, or they send it directly to Microsoft, where Microsoft will further analyze and specify what's it called, and do justice to the reason why they are reporting it. Is that they are reporting it that it is spam, but it got delivered, or they are reporting it that it is not spam and it was held. So Microsoft would further do an analysis, and it also helps them to also strengthen or probably build up their own filtering gateway. So you can always install this for everybody within your Microsoft 365 portal. It just comes up automatically in your Outlook. Then also you want to enable spam notification, where users every day would get a summary of all emails that are held on the quarantine, and they are able to release them. Although for explicit, what's it called, block, users won't be able to release that, but admin will be able to release, what's it called, that. Then also you can advise them to use Safe Sender. However, Safe Sender should be used, what's it called, cautiously, because basically for every email or domain added to the Safe Sender, those emails would always override, or probably, what's it called, they wouldn't go through the spam checks. All those check for malware, check for spam, check for, what's it called, anti-spoof intelligence will be overridden. So which means users may eventually begin to get unwanted email from some of those names that they have added to their spam Safe Sender list. Then recommendations and best practice, basically. Like I said earlier, never add your own accepted domains to your own allowed list. If you do, what you are saying is that anybody can spoof your domain, and that is one of the, what's it called, that is one of the issues in a large number of environments which I've seen. So maybe they have email system outside their environment that sends email on their behalf. We know some of these stuffs, like banks would have email systems that send notifications for them. You would have, what's it called, maybe, what do you call it, issue management systems that you want to send email as your environment. You have created an email address, but due to the fact that an email from your domain is coming from the edge externally, it would always block it. You don't, because of that, go and add your own domain on your allow list. No, what you can always do is add that particular email to the allow spoof within your, what's it called, the section within your spoof intelligence, where you can allow certain email addresses to be spoofed, and that will be service email addresses which you use, but don't add your domain. Adding your domain will further expose you. Then also, if you are using layers of email protection system, always ensure that edge exchange online protection is at the edge. That means it's the first one. So maybe I'm using exchange online protection. I'm also subscribed to what do you call this? What's it called? Solution. Mimecast or Mimecast? What's it called? I've seen them before. Then maybe you're also using, exactly. You're also using FortiGate. Exactly, FortiGate. Yeah. You want to use the three of them at the same time. Then what's it called? You might preferably want to use Exchange as the first one. Using Exchange as the first one would mean that Exchange is at the edge, and it is the Exchange information that will be published as your MS record. So that ensures that you enjoy all the old information. So every email going out of Exchange is what is now subjected to further check on the second layer, which will be your Mimecast or probably your FortiNet. Then also, this would always always happen maybe during migration, and majority of time it will be left. maybe you are currently on Exchange and you are using a different email gateway which has been published as your MX record. Now you are working on Exchange, or on Exchange, you are migrating to Exchange Online, or you have bought EOP as a separate solution which you want to use, and you are at the point of doing a cut over. So majority of time, the approach would always be that you add both MS record, you add Exchange, while your existing MS record will still be there. Then you make Exchange your, what's it called? You make Exchange, you give it a lower priority. You know, MS record will always work according to priority. So if you do that, at that point in time, you are not really using EOP, because what will be used will be that guy with the primary MS record. And also, if you are doing, if you, what's it called? If you have done the cut over, always take off and shut down the old smart host or probably email gateway. The reason is that if you don't do that, even if it is, let's assume you took off the MS record or you just made it gave it a lower priority, attackers who are very familiar, probably if they've been able to make their way through your email system using the old record, and now they see that your MS record is now O365. Primarily, if they send email without being intentional about it, then the email should go to EOP and EOP should do the check. But if they've seen that you still have an MS record from a different email, from an email gateway, they could direct their email directly to it. So that means I can specify which of your email gateway should undo my mails. So I can use that to avoid your, what's it called, your EOP. So the best thing would be that you take it off and you don't make it, what's it called, visible. Then also always set up your email authentication properly. That is your DMARC, your DKIM, and what's it called, your SPF. Define all SPF appropriately. Make sure that your DMARC policy is complete. We have specified that email should be quarantined or it should be rejected. Make sure that your DMARC percentage is 100%, else only part of the emails will be rejected. And I guess, what's it called? That is that. So if we have experiences, we can share success stories. Email management, spam management is not the same everywhere. So it would be nice to hear from you guys also what you do within the environment, what you have experienced. And if you have questions, I'm ready to take them now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raji. I'm telling you, this is, man, this is very insightful for me. I mean, I've jotted a lot of things down, and then I'm sure a lot of our audience also, a lot of people on the show also have jot down one thing or the other. I have a question on chat window by Sheyi. He said, is there a default setting for region email flow, or do we need to customize the settings?
So when you say, what's it called, regional email flow, I want to believe is that maybe you have either more than one tenant, or you'd have more than one accepted sender within your, what's it called, environment, and you'd have those domains registered within the region. Like in some of the environment we manage, we have some of our domains registered in Dubai, and they use their own O365 tenants within Dubai and stuff like that. If basically that is what you mean, the best way you could always do that is using your mail flow rules. You could create your mail flow rules to use, either use mail flow rules or use connectors. Yeah, you could use mail flow rules, you could use connectors. Connectors, you are able to define explicitly which email gateway to handle that. So if I want any email going to the Dubai region, I want the email, the EOP system for the Dubai tenants to undo it, then I'll just send it directly. So it doesn't even need to go to the internet for email routing. It just go directly to the Dubai. So if that is what you mean, yeah, it is possible for you to do that using your, what's it called, connectors, and also your Mayflow rules.
Okay, Shay, I hope that answers the question. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any question with a raise of hand? I think it's been a very insightful session for me. I love the fact that Raji was able to do justice to this topic. If I had known, I think I would have made it a two-part series and then give it part 1 and 2. But to be honest, Raji is a very busy person, and I mean, for me to get him to this show, it has been since last year. And for him to come on this week, I think is a lot of effort. So thank you so much, Raji. If we all have any other question, please do answer. We can consider this in the chat. One other person is asking a question. When you set the exchange accepted domain status to authoritative or internal relay, what impact does this have on your email filtering or protection? This is from Olufemi Awe.
Yeah. So authoritative basically means that the email system your email system, that's your domain, is authoritative for that particular domain name. So that means my tenant is authoritative for that domain name. So which means any email sent to me, I should look for the recipient inbound. But if you are saying internal relay, it means that if you check within and it's not there, send it elsewhere. So, but the cases where it can always interfere with your email filtering policy is when you have an hybrid. So there's always a challenge where you have an hybrid on if your email should be authoritative or probably it should be on internal relay. Reason being that you have some mailbox on premise and you still have some mailboxes, in the cloud. In such cases, then you use internal relay. But else, you should always be authoritative, because internal relay would mean that such email would further be sent directly. And in some cases, if they sent directly to your on-premise, there are limits. There are some EOP protection policies that don't apply to on-premise mailboxes. So if you go and check the EOP metrics when you have an hybrid, it specifies what is applied. For instance, ZAP, that is the 0-hour auto purge, doesn't apply on emails that are on-premise. It only applies for emails that are online.
Okay, thank you so much, Raji, for that. Oluwafemi, I hope that answers your question. I hope it does answer your question. Does any other question for us? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Raji. Some of the questions I jotted down, you've answered even while I was while you were going through the recommendation aspect of it, which I also was looking at. And then thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending. With this, we say we've come to the end of the show, but then we also have another interesting speaker next week. And then I think he will be taking up this topic from Protect Your Microsoft 365 Tenants with Ease. And then who we have on that topic is no other person, Abudu Akim Abdul. So next week, Friday, will be another interesting session. Make sure you tune in. And then one other thing, please fill the evaluation form. Tell us how we're doing. If there's any topic of interest you want us to take, please give us your feedback. And also follow us on the on our Twitter and then on the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our channels. Do not subscribe below, but we want you also to give us some likes, really, and then so that we can know how we're doing and feedback. So during the course of the week, we'll upload this recording, and then so you can watch out for it. Thank you once again, Raji, for honoring us and then having this session with you. With us. Thank you everyone for taking our time to attend. With this, I want to say have a very wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you. Bye, everyone.